Thanks, Deborah. My name's Kyle McFarlane. I'm the Senior Director of Golf Operations at Golf Ontario. The purpose of my presentation today is to show how our team at Golf Ontario solved for a gap in programming within our industry by putting research findings into practice in the area of female golf. We define our program in all segments of our operation into three categories: try, learn, and play. As we began for our planning for 2020 in the late summer of 2019, it was evident that there was a gap in programming in the women's golf pathway. Over the facilities across the province offer a number of play opportunities for females to participate, and there are also a number of decent learn opportunities. But there weren't any programs feeding these two elements of the pathway in that initial try phase. As such, we commissioned SIRC to examine the international golf landscape through a literature review to determine the best practices for the development of a try golf opportunity for female golfers. How do we attract those females to the game, and how do we keep them playing for life? Through that research, we identified some key program barriers for these non-golfing women. First of all, there was a perception of an unwelcoming environment, a male-dominated environment, that created some anxiety or lack of self-confidence among women to take the game up. There was also a lack of knowledge of the game, the requirement of lessons, of memberships, that it required tons of practice and expensive equipment. And finally, the third barrier that was most frequently come up in the research was a significant time and cost commitment. Too long of a time away from your family or your other commitments, the cost of equipment, the cost of tee times, the cost of lessons, memberships, all those barriers stood in the way of women taking up the game. As we took this information in, we started to build programming development, which allowed us to really hone in on these elements, these barriers, and build out some key program design requirements that would help adjust for them. The findings also showed those requirements for the program required key elements that were attractive to women. Fun, obviously lowering the anxiety that they felt about coming to the golf course. Inclusive, so a welcoming environment that was less male dominated and more welcoming to that female audience. Simple, so easy to understand, no lessons, no time commitments, those type of things that really stood in the way as a barrier. Social elements, so they wanted to be around other ladies as well, again, creating a better environment and more inclusiveness. Flexible, able to fit the schedules of their lives in around family or other commitments they may have around work. And most importantly, I think the last component was it was female only. So again, creating that environment that was a lot more welcoming to them because it was like-minded, it was led by females, included females, and that was the key element of the program that we needed to consider. So women's motivation to take up golf is influenced by peers and participation in the support. Women invite women. So enter the Women's Try Golf Series. It was simple. No scorecards, no rules, 9 holes or 6 or 3 or 1 if you want. Clubs available, social component after the golf. Just come, try golf, have fun. Again, no rules out there. If you want to throw your ball down the fairway, have at it. Just have fun. And oh, by the way, it was only $25. The Try Golf Series was built for women and by women. Try Golf Series was positioned for women as it is here for you. We want you to try it and we want you to love it. As simple as that. The fun, inclusive, and simple elements that we talked about in the program design, again, ladies only, no experience needed, clubs, balls, tees, etc., available for everyone if needed. Only 9 holes with other players that are like other females in a fun, welcoming environment. Very simple to understand. Very inclusive, and the most part, a fun environment, as I said. Secondary components, the social flexibility, cost, and time sensitivity. We ran these in late afternoons, multiple sites, multiple days of the week, allow for that flexible scheduling. Female-friendly golf courses, clean washrooms, well-placed signage, welcoming environment for the golfers coming in. And of course, après golf wine, which everybody loved. Oh, and can I mention again, it was only $25. The idea here was simple. Bring your friends and learn together. Who doesn't like having, fun with friends and a little wine at the end? These events sold out in days based on friends sharing with other friends and bringing them out. Wine might have been a bigger selling point than the golf, but you know what? We didn't care. They showed up at the golf course anyway. Like I said, in 2020, we piloted this program. This was piloted during the first summer of COVID. We had 4 sites and 200 women sign up merely 2 weeks of registrations. In 2021, we were able to build off the pilot and launch the full program in its entirety across the province. 5 regions were chosen. We had over 30 sites and over 1,200 women participating. This past season, based on demand, we were required to expand the program. It was, again, overwhelming support, overwhelming commitment from ladies, and inviting more ladies to the game. This past summer, we had 44 sites across the province and over 2,000 women participating in the sport. Based on the success from 2021 and this past year, the program extensions of the Tri-Golf series moved indoors. We had a number of events hosted over the course of the off-season, including some Tri-Golf events just in a virtual setting in simulator bays. And we also included shopping events where women were able to come, check out the latest fashions in golf, and again, get some lessons as they could in those simulator bays. Again, it created a great atmosphere that was more, intro to the sport, intro to the fashion, intro to other elements of the game, which the ladies really enjoyed. So what's next? 2023, what do we have planned? Again, further expansion. We'll look at our on-grass program, expand it to a number of different sites, again, expanding out to more 7 regions across the province. 2023 will also see expansion indoors. We'll be including more indoor spaces throughout the off-season. And the third component for 2023, which is a result of our research or our feedback from this past year, was women want more. What's the 2.0 version of Tri-Golf? So we'll be expanding to include some Tri-Golf leagues that will create more regular play over the course of an 8-week span where women can engage and support with each other in the sport outside of that Tri experience. So again, get back to the basics. We were able to solve for a huge programming gap in our operation through evidence-based decision-making. We learned from that review of literature, able to design a program that was an immediate success because of the gap that it filled. The program's evolved to include participants over the entire province. Core elements have been derived from the research that are still involved in the program. And we're able to expand to new avenues to reach more ladies in the sport. So again, very successful opportunity to show how putting research into practice can really drive a new program and the success of an industry. I want to thank you all for letting me speak with you today. And again, thanks for hosting me here today at the conference. Look forward to the rest of the program. Thank you.
Thanks, Kyle. What a fascinating look at the work that's being done at Golf Ontario. And I'm certain there are many key learnings and takeaways for not just golf, but other organizations across Canada in terms of supporting their girls and women's programs. So just to kick off the Q&A period here today, I just wanted to ask, so we know women and girls participation can be a challenge for many different sports. Did you have any kind of key takeaways or first steps that other organizations might take if they wanted to create similar programs?
Yeah, thanks. No, I believe that, again, I mentioned it there at the end. I mean, really the way that we approached this was, getting our ducks in a row, and using that evidence-based decision-making to really drive those decisions around the programming, components and building them out, based on the research and not just on a whim or, empirical, or sorry, not empirical, but just more anecdotal evidence out there in the industry. A lot of programs in the past that have been launched, within our industry around women have just taken on that perspective of, this is what we think, would work, or this is what we think women would like. Whereas we took that approach to get through that, get through that literature review and actually really identify those program elements that would ensure some success.
That's great. And one question from our audience wondering, do you have anything in place to support gender diverse athletes or any programming in that area outside of just women?
Yeah, so I mean, this is an evolution for the association as well, right? So for sure, we're in the works right now, developing our program. We're about to launch our new strategic plan, which ED&I is a huge component of, to ensure that we have programming in place that support sort of the entire population. Obviously, golf, in as a sport, has evolved in this area, and we continue to. Even just this, past year, we introduced some programming specifically for different underrepresented groups, and we'll continue to look for those program opportunities and build those out for sure. But again, going back to it, we will use the proper channels to do so, with proper research and proper evidence to make those decisions in program development.
Oh, great. That's like what we like to hear at a research conference. Related to that last point, we had another question come in. You'd mentioned you have some programming for underrepresented groups that you're building out. What have you been doing to accommodate those groups or make golf more accessible to them?
Yeah, I think that the golf's unique in again, identified some of the same barriers or perceived barriers of entry in the research developing this women's program. I mean, similarly, we've launched a mixed abilities championship 3 years ago, and we continue to build off the knowledge gap and the information that we're receiving from those athletes that are out there participating in our sport, to attract new mixed ability golfers in. We're looking at ways to reduce those barriers, and the advent of the indoor golf space or simulator space eliminates some of the challenges of undulating terrains and whatnot, especially for our para athletes, and getting them into the game to try it, to get a swing, to use some of the tools that we have in place or that other athletes have been using in a more comfortable and controlled environment. But again, all of this has come through just the feedback, the research, talking with the competitors, understanding how they got into the game, what were the challenges when they started playing golf, and how can we start to eliminate those and create a more equitable environment for everybody to try the game.
Awesome, great to hear. And can you speak a bit more about the role that research and continued evaluation has played in this program? And specifically, we had a question come in about if you're collecting any retention data among the girls and women participating in the program.
Yeah, I mean, so obviously, the research played a huge role in program development, but it obviously has played an even bigger role in the program evolution. We started the pilot back in 2020 in the middle of a pandemic, and even in that environment, understanding who these participants were, what they were looking for, what the feedback was, so we can continue to evolve the program to meet those needs and meet those needs of the different types of participants we had. And we'll continue to do so. We introduced the Net Promoter Score into our evaluation feed, and use that information in our database, obviously, to ensure some more peer-to-peer growth of program, but peer-to-peer input as well, in terms of what they're looking for from that golfing experience. And now that we have sort of a database of over 3,000 women that have tried the sport and through the program, the next phase is really what can we build to make it attractive for them to continue that 2.0 version of the program, or the league version that we're looking at putting together for 2023, partnering with similar like-bodied groups of female members, and looking at how these programs can evolve to fit their certain group demographics and their needs as well. So it's that constant feedback, that constant evolution that lets us evolve the program and continue to grow in this space.
Great. And sort of through that feedback, the data you've collected, maybe even just some of the anecdotes you've heard, do you have any stories from the program that might help to kind of demonstrate its impact? Yeah, I mean, so from our standpoint, again, we're going back to the mission of Golf Ontario and shaping lives through golf. I mean, we look at this program as an opportunity to do so. And there are some great stories, some great camaraderie that come out of it. We had up at one of our events just south of Barrie, we had two ladies show up, and typically they're paired with, in foursomes or foursome groups. And that day, the two ladies that were meant to play with these two ladies ended up not showing up or canceling the last minute. So these two ladies just played together, had a great time. But they were friends. And they came to our coordinator at the end and said, we had such a great time. We're going to sign up for the next Ladies Try Golf, but we have one request. We just want to play together, just the two of us. And Jane, our program coordinator, say, well, no, like that's not the way this works. Like, we're going to pair you up with another twosome and another two ladies so you can play together. And so, like, somewhat begrudgingly, they agreed, but they signed up for that next event.
By the time the group that group of 4 ladies ended that round at the second Try Golf events, they had actually booked a trip to Florida together, the 4 of them, to go down and enjoy some sunshine and play a few rounds of golf. And they also signed up for another Try Golf event as a foursome. And at that third Try Golf event that this one lady was at, she actually hit a hole-in-one, which for any golfers out there that realizes is like an impossibility that some golfers wait their entire lifetime for, and she did it in the third round of golf. So again, it was experience that, like, the story, the experience that we share, because I think it's really a way to show that, just introducing to the sport can really create, those elements of the game that we strive to drive out, and sort of that fun and friendship and creating that social environment and networking with other ladies. So it's a great story, a great opportunity, and I think that now we've identified 4 new golfers for the rest of their lives, hopefully.
Yeah, that's a great story. Great way to show your program impact too. And a bit of a more logistical question, the last question we have here for you today. One audience member is wondering about the cost to deliver the program. Did you partner with the different local clubs to run it? How is kind of that side of things worked for Golf Ontario?
Yeah, it's very cost neutral program. Obviously, in the first pilot years, there was some expense obviously built in for us. Right now, we charge $25 for the participants to play. That includes their round of golf equipment if they need it, and a glass of wine on the patio afterwards. That $25 goes directly to the golf facility to cover off their expenses. We run in off peak times, like in the evenings, 4:30 to 6:30. So that's fine for the facilities. And the facilities we're partnering with are female-friendly facilities that want the ladies there. So it makes it easy for us to give them a bit of a stipend back to the facility, but at the same time create that opportunity. We've got a wine sponsor, which again, we have wineries that are like knocking down the doors to try and be part of this program so they can get their product out there and in the hand. So that's been great. And then great partners through association partners that help us with the equipment, balls, tees, and rental clubs and everything. So like the partners that are engaged into the demographic, into the program, and as such just make it a lot more accessible and barrier free for the participants.
Okay, great. Thanks, Kyle. And I actually lied. We do have one more question that we'd like to ask. We've had actually a couple questions come in about transportation and that being a barrier to golf participation. Have you thought about ways to engage anyone or to kind of find a way to assist in that area? So to help get people to the golf course so that they can participate if that's something that might be holding them back? Yeah,
it's a great question. And to be honest, it's one that we probably don't have the answer to at this point. In more of the urban settings, obviously there are some avenues for, to set some of that stuff up in terms of ride sharing and whatnot. We are working on community, so a community-based portal for, engagement amongst the women that are participants to share with like ride sharing and those type of things. It hasn't been an area that we actually that's come up as a barrier that and again, the person that asked the question, I'd love to learn more about what that looks like for them and what type of setting they're in. Because again, if it's at one of their barriers, then we'll work with some partners to try and figure out if we can solve for that. It hasn't been one that's been identified at this point though, so it's great. Great. Thank you, Kyle. So we'll wrap up there. For anyone that did put questions in the Q&A box, if we didn't get to it, we'll be sure to follow up with you through the Q&A. And Kyle, I'm sure we can also connect you maybe with those individuals who asked those questions as well, in case you'd like to engage further and learn a bit more about what they were thinking. Yeah, definitely. Awesome. So thank you, Kyle, and we'll let you go. Okay, thank you.